All right. Good evening, everyone. This is meeting number 10, and just a note to members of the public, due to the efforts to contain the spread of COVID-19 and to protect all individuals, the council chambers will not be open to the public to attend council meetings until further notice. Members of the public who wish to participate by providing oral comments for matters that are on the agenda must attend virtually by obtaining a Zoom invite in advance by emailing jdyson@westlincoln.ca. And in order to attend tonight, you would have had to do it by December 6, 2021, before 4:30 p.m. Those who wish to observe the meeting may do so through the live stream that's available, which also can be found on our website and social media. So I'm just going to do a quick introduction. Myself, I'm Councillor William Riley. I'll be the chair of this meeting. And before we kind of get into things, I just want to wish Councillor Braderick a happy birthday. I hear it's her 29th birthday here, so happy birthday, Councillor. No problem. So I'm going to just move forward to the next item on agenda here. So this evening, all standing committee of council will be meeting with the exception of the Public Works Recreation Committee. We will first commence with the public, sorry, I'm getting my glasses here for a second. We will commence with the public meeting under the Planning Act, following the public meeting. The Planning, Building, and Environmental Committee meeting will recess to allow the Administration, Finance, and Fire Committee meeting to be held. Once this meeting has adjourned, we will then resume with the Planning, Building, and Environmental Committee meeting. Again, due to the efforts to contain the spread of COVID-19 and to protect all individuals, the council chambers will not be open to the public to attend a standing committee or council meeting until further notice. The public may submit their comments for matters that are on any agenda to jdyson@westlincoln.ca before 4:30 on the day of the meeting. Comments submitted will be considered as public information and will be read into the public at that time. This meeting will also be live streamed and recorded and available on the Township website. So we're moving forward to our land acknowledgement statement. The Township of West Lincoln, being a part of the Niagara region, is situated on the treaty land. The land is steep in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattaway-Noongar, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations between Métis and Inuit people from across the Turtle Island that live and work in the Niagara today. The Township of West Lincoln, as part of the regional municipality of Niagara, stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands of which we live. So at this point, I'm going to ask all members of committee if there's any conflict or pecuniary conflict of interest to disclose. Not seeing or hearing any. So we're going to move forward to our public meeting, which is a zoning bylaw amendment to 2458 Smithville Road. And the zoning bylaw amendment submitted by Paul and Lorraine Cronkright for the property municipality known as 2458 Smithville Road, file number 1601-15-21. So I'm just going to switch my screen over here. So just going back through here, the Planning Act requires in section 3412 that before passing a zoning bylaw amendment, council must hold at least one public meeting for the purpose of informing the public in respect to the amendment. The purpose of this public meeting is to receive comments and answer questions from the public regarding the amendment to the Township of West Lincoln zoning bylaw. We stress that at this point, no decision has been made on the proposed amendment, and any comments received will be taken into account by council in their consideration. The Planning Act also requires through section 3413 that council advise the public that if a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of West Lincoln before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of council for the Township of West Lincoln to the Ontario Land Tribunal, also known as OLT. Would the Deputy Clerk please advise the method and dates by which notice was given to the public?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Proper notice was given by way of mail distribution on November 11th, 2021, as well as a yellow sign being posted on the subject property and published on the Township's website.
Thank you, Jessica. Will Planner 2, Madison Etzel, please explain the purpose and reason for the proposed zoning bylaw amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A zoning bylaw amendment has been applied for by Lorraine and Paul Cronkright for the property municipally known as 2458 Smithville Road. This rezoning application is required as a condition of consent, which was approved by the Committee of Adjustment on August 18th, 2021. The severed residential lot is proposed to be rezoned from agricultural to rural residential with a site-specific exception to recognize a 14.5 meter residential small holding lot frontage, whereas 45 meters is required. a maximum ground floor area for an agricultural accessory building of 320 square meters, whereas 100 square meters is the permitted maximum. A maximum total accessory building lot coverage of 340 square meters, whereas 200 square meters or 8% of the maximum lot coverage is the required maximum. And finally, a reduced minimum distance separation setback of 170 meters, whereas 190 meters is required from the newly created lot to the nearest unoccupied horse barn. The retained agricultural lot is proposed to be rezoned to agricultural purposes only to prevent any future residential development. This will also have a site-specific exception to recognize a 23.2 hectare maximum lot area where 39 hectares is required. Regional and township policies are intended to provide for the preservation of agricultural lands for agricultural purposes and ensure development patterns within the agricultural and rural area do not result in land use conflicts for agricultural uses. The parcel was created in an irregular shape to follow the existing cropped area and to capture the existing accessory buildings and septic system. The application was circulated to all neighboring properties, and staff received no objections to the proposed applications, nor any objections from the Niagara Region or NPCA. A recommendation report will be brought to the next Planning, Building and Environment Committee meeting, and I believe the applicants are here this evening. I'm not sure if they would like to speak or not, but
yes, here. Yeah, thank you, Madison. So at this point, I'm going to ask Lorraine and Paul there if they would like to unmute themselves, and if they want, they can also turn on their video, and at this point, they can address this if they like, or if they have an agent that's present that's going to speak on their behalf, they can speak as well.
I don't really think we have any questions. They've all been answered as we've gone along. We're just anxious to see this come to fruition, and we're trying to follow all the guidelines and meet all the conditions before the termination date.
Excellent, thank you. So at this point, I'll go to members of the public. I guess I don't really have access to that right now, so I'll go to our IT. But are there any members of the public that have any oral written submissions from anyone present at the Zoom meeting regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendment? I'd like to stress that this may be the only public meeting held with respect to the application. Therefore, if any members of the public that are in attendance at this Zoom public meeting would like to make their comments or provide a written comment, they should do so now by using one of the two options. If they're on a computer, sorry, I'm just looking over at the gallery there. If they're using a computer or smartphone, you can click the raise your hand button, and this will notify us that you are interested in speaking. And if you're using a phone, we ask that you hit *9, and this will notify staff that you've raised your hand. Once you've been acknowledged to speak, please unmute your microphone. It is important that you provide your comments now. And if you have not done so already in writing or verbally, the OLT, Ontario Land Tribunal, may not consider comments made during any other council and/or committee meeting. Also, anyone wishing to speak are required to unmute the microphone to talk, and then once they finish, we do ask that you remute and turn off your video. And prior to speaking, we do ask that you provide your full name and your address. So at this point, a quick glance there, I didn't see any members that were interested, so we're going to move forward to members of committee. Do any members of committee have any oral written submissions on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment? And again, not to sound like a broken record here, but I have to read this. Please note that members of committee must make their comments now, as the Ontario Land Tribunal may not consider comments made at any other council or committee meeting. Any member of council wishing to speak are required to unmute their microphone to talk, and then once they've finished, we ask that you remute your microphone. So members of committee, do we have any questions, any comments? Not seeing or hearing any. Excellent. Councillor Rayner did? Sorry, there's a delay there. Okay, Councillor.
Thank you. Through to the planning department, please. There seems to be a lot of exceptions to this property. They mentioned 3 or 4 that they're asking for variance of. Could that be explained a little further, please?
Go ahead, Mr. Director of Planning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Councillor Rayner, the situation that we're dealing with is an existing lot that has existed for a long time and is grandfathered, if I can call it that, with respect to a number of zoning provisions. The trick is when we create a lot, which these folks are eligible for under the surplus severance criteria, we are obligated through this new process when we create the new lot to ensure that it complies in all respects with our 2017 zoning bylaw. So all we're doing through you, Mr. Chair, is recognizing the existing situation as it applies to a small holding and the farm parcel. It sounds like there are a number of variances, but we're simply recognizing legal situations that already exist.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Councillor?
Through to Mr. Treble, so this is a surplus farm dwelling severance?
That's correct, Mr. Chair. Through you, there is an area farmer who is purchasing the farmland and does not require the house. I believe, although the Cronkrights can confirm, I believe the Cronkrights are in fact retaining the residents for their own benefit and selling the farm off to an area farmer that has just newly established a dairy farm in the area.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. I just wanted clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of committee? Not seeing or hearing any. Please be advised that a technical report is being considered by this committee this evening and that a recommendation report will be forthcoming to a future committee and or council meeting. Please also be advised that once committee or council has made their decision with respect to the zoning bylaw amendment, and if approved by council, a notice of their passing will be circulated with an appeal period. If you wish to be notified by council's decision, please ensure that you email the Township Clerk, Joanne Shime, at jshime@westlincoln.ca. As well, anyone who is interested in observing council and or committee meetings, discussions about a particular bylaw should not solely rely on mailed notices, risking the chance of missing the opportunity to attend an applicable meeting. Instead, it is suggested that you watch the Township website for the postings of agendas to review of the items being discussed at a council and or a committee meeting. The agendas for the meetings are posted on the Township's website after 4 p.m. on the Friday prior to the meeting. Additionally, many meeting schedules are also noted on the Township website for the public to view. If you wish to receive notices by email, it is suggested that you contact the clerk to advise of this request and include your email along with your mailing address and your phone number. So at this point, I'm going to conclude this public meeting is adjourned at the hour of 6:43. So I'm just to read one last thing here, and then we're going to hand the floor over. So this is just a notice that the Planning, Building, Environmental Committee will recess for the following public meeting, which we just did. And then after that, now we're going into the Administration, Finance and Fire Committee, and that the planning meeting, for those who are waiting around to see any discussions in relation to that, will resume shortly after the Administration meeting. So we just need maybe about a minute or two recess here, and then we'll be right back shortly. So thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's portion of the Administration, Fire and Finance Committee. I'm your chair, Jason Trombetta. Notice to the public, due to the efforts of the spread of COVID-19 to protect all individuals, council chambers will not be open to the public to attend standing committees and council meetings until further notice. The public may submit comments of the matter that are on the agenda to jshimmy@westlincoln.ca before 4:30 on the day of the meeting. Comments submitted will be considered as public information and will be read into the public record. The meeting will be live streamed and recorded and available on the Township's website. Our land acknowledgement statement: the Township of West Lincoln, being a part of the Niagara region, is situated on treaty land. The land is steeped in rich history of the First Nations, such as the Haudenosaunee and Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe, including Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Metis from Inuit people from across Turtle Island, and live and work in the Niagara region today. The Township of West Lincoln, as a part of the regional municipality of Niagara, stands with Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardships of the land in which we live. Members of committee, is there any changes or orders of items on the agenda? Seeing none. Any disclosure of peculiar interest or conflicts of interest? Seeing none, we'll move on to appointments. Item A 76-21, Mr. John Mascarin of Aaron Bearless, Township Integrity Commissioner, Services and Cost Breakdown of Services. The recommendation that the Integrity Commissioner Service Report as prepared and submitted by John Mascarin, Aaron Bearless, Township Integrity Commissioner, dated December 1st, 2021, dealing with the roles and functions, confidentiality, costs, services and breakdowns and complaints and investigating costs be received for information. But we have, I think, a presentation first by Mr. John Mascarin. If it's the will of Kevin, I will switch it, and Roberta, I'll switch it over to Mr. Mascarin if that this time. Guys, seeing the thumbs up. Welcome, Mr. Mascarin, to tonight's meeting.
Good evening, Chair. Good evening, members of the committee, and thank you very much for having me this evening. You'll see on your agenda there is a report from me dated December the 1st, 2020. The report emanated from a discussion that I had had with both your clerk and your CAO. I saw a news item where the township was interested in the costs incurred by the municipality with respect to code of conduct complaints and investigations that had taken place at Niagara Region. I contacted both your clerk and your CAO asking if they would be interested in my preparing a similar report so that council was aware of the cost that had been spending for our services, and both Ms. Hendry and Ms. Scheme indicated that they would like to have that. And so therefore you have in front of you this evening a very brief report that highlights our jurisdiction, the functions that we carry out for the township, which is not limited only to investigation matters. It deals much more broadly. As you know, the provincial government expanded the role of integrity commissioners and actually made it a mandatory office of every municipality. Every municipality has to provide the services of an integrity commissioner. And while the code investigation and reporting function seems to get the most press, there's also other important functions that are carried out, including the ability to provide written advice to members of council and provide educational services to staff, to council, as well as to the public. The other, of course, aspect of it is the integrity commissioner can give advice and can also look into possible breaches of the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Since our appointment at the end of 2018, almost 3 years to the day today, Mr. Chair, we have done a number of services for the municipality. So the front page highlights, of course, the role of the Integrity Commissioner and what that is. We make a brief comment and draw your attention to the fact that everything that we do as an Integrity Commissioner is under a shroud of secrecy. It's confidential. So you may be able to ask me some questions, and there may be answers that I'm able to give you, and there may be some answers that I cannot give you with respect to the services that we provided. And that's because there is a statutory confidentiality provision in the statute that says everything that comes within our knowledge as part of our duties is to remain confidential. There are some exceptions to that. And of course, one of the exceptions is when we report and we provide an investigative report to council to detail any code of conduct complaints, investigation, any MCIA applications, or any other breach of any other ethical responsibilities. In that case, the Integrity Commissioner is entitled to disclose the identity of a person and such other matters as the Integrity Commissioner considers appropriate. So I wanted to mention that up front because you may have some questions and I may not be able to answer some of them. The cost of the services are set out at the bottom of page 2 of our report. You'll see I've divided them into 4 broad categories, and you'll see in general what they are. The complaint investigations and reporting that we've done thus far for the municipality over the 3-year period amounts to approximately $50,000. The advice that we've given to staff, to members of the public, and to council members is just over $5,000. We have provided training and education, including an original presentation by one of my colleagues at the firm on the Code of Conduct and the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. That was about $4,500. And to put together the Code of Conduct for you and the draft protocol, the complaint protocol that is Appendix B to the code, was about $1,500. In total, the municipality has incurred approximately $61,500 over a 3-year period, the predominant amount of which resides with respect to investigations and reporting. On page 3, Mr. Chair and members of committee, you'll see that we divided the approximate dollar figures into the various complaints that we've investigated. You'll recognize complaints 2020-02, 03, and 04 because those were publicly reported sometime last year. So those you'll recall. I've recently reported with respect to 2 suspended complaints that are being held in abeyance, and those are complaints 2021-01 and 02. And there are 2 other ones that we've dealt with and that you don't know about, and that's because they were summarily terminated, summarily dismissed. We commenced an inquiry and then decided that there was no basis to continue on with the inquiry for various reasons. And so we summarily terminated 2 complaints. And that's the first one on the list, 2020-01, and a recent one, 2021-03. And you'll see the dollar amounts there. The total, of course, corresponds with the amount on the front page. And in essence, Mr. Chair, those are my comments on the cost of services. I'd be pleased to take any questions that council may have, and I'll do my best to attempt to respond to them. But I have to bear in mind my duty of confidentiality. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mascaron. Yeah, so I'm quite sure there's probably be some questions. So I'm going to read out this recommendation, and then I'll turn to, instead of doing it twice, then I'll turn to the members of the committee if they have any comments or questions. So if you can please just stick around for a couple minutes there, Mr. Mascaron, and we'll go from there. So the recommendation that the Integrity Commissioner Services report as prepared and submitted by Mr. John Mascaron, Arid Burles, Township Integrity Commissioner, dated December 1st, 2021, dealing with the roles and functions of confidentiality, costs of services, and breakdowns of complaints and investigation costs be received for information. So I need a mover for that. Councillor Riley, seconded by Councillor Gannan. Comments or questions? Any members? Councillor Rayner?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mascaron, for putting this together. About 2 months ago, I asked that you come to council to explain and bring us up to speed with regards to any and all of any problems that may be existing among councillors in this township, and a breakdown specifically for each councillor, so that we have an idea of the breakdown as to what has incurred all these costs. You mentioned, I believe, that 2020, 02, 03, 04 are related to specific public events. Is that not correct, sir?
Yes, that's correct, Councillor Ryan.
So you are, through you, Mr. Chair, so you are allowed to indicate who's responsible for this?
Yes, Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Rayner. Yes, it's public knowledge. Those reports were public. My colleague and I, Dasha Paragodova, appeared before council and spoke to those complaints. There were 3 complaints made against Mayor Bylsma. They related to comments and statements and actions taken by Mayor Bylsma with respect to various matters, essentially the Black Lives Matters, Indigenous peoples, and LGBTQ matters dealing with the flying of the pride flag. Contraventions were found in a number of those complaints, and we reported to that in a public sense, so in a public way. So, Councillor Rayner, you were aware that those reports dealt with Mayor Bylsma.
Okay, so Mayor Bilsma, then, of the $50,225.50, that part of it accounted for the $36,186 of it. Is that not correct?
It's plainly evident. Yes, it's right there.
Okay, are there any further, since we're on the topic of our mayor, is there any further investigations? I believe there was a protest in St. Catharines that resulted in our mayor getting charged. I thought there was a court date in May with that. And I know the mayor wanted that to be public because he was in the public to make sure he was seen. Have we got a progress report with regards to that? Because I'm sure since that was public, the whole process, including the court, would like to be public to the, would it not, sir?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure what Councillor Rayner you're asking me to advise on. If you could just be specific, and I'll try my best to answer you.
Okay, one of these that are left undone, is it not relating to the protest march that was done in St. Catharines early in the spring? I guess it was March or something. Is that still outstanding because it's a court case?
Mr. Chair, I cannot answer that question.
Okay, I would like to direct it through Mr. Chair to the mayor. Mr. Mayor, you were charged. It was public knowledge with regards to the protest in St. Catharines. There was a court date in May. I thought it was like May 26th or something. I know you wanted to be public about it. That's why you went for it, and you were definitely seen on television voicing your protest, and the police department decided that they would make an example of you and charged you. Could you give us an update with regards to the process on that? Since this whole thing was public, I would gather that it should remain public until its conclusion. Is there anything you can offer further on that?
Actually, I would disagree entirely and say it remains private until it's public. So at this point, Mr. Rayner, Councillor Rayner, you've succeeded. You've gotten your point out. I think you're very thoroughly, apparently, trying to publicly call me out. You have that right, sir, and you've done a fantastic job, and I hope the public, I have nothing to disclose, sir. I don't know why, what your motivations are necessarily, but you've accomplished your task, as is your right to do, and I'm not going to answer any further or self-incriminate myself, sir. I don't want to get personal. As a councillor, you have that right. You've done it. You've achieved it. And but I'm
Mr. Chair, I believe his conduct is really inappropriate for his position.
We don't need any.
You know what?
Mr. Mayor, I got the floor here, Mr. Mayor. But just Councillor Rayner, he gave you an answer, Mr. Mayor. We don't need theatrics either. So just you've answered the question. You got your answer that you were looking for, Councillor Rayner. Any further questions?
Well, I have only
through
one statement
the chair to Mr. Mascarin.
The mayor said that it was private until it becomes public. It was publicly announced at the court date, so I would assume that would have still made it public. But since it is private until public in the mayor's eyes, when that decision comes down, then I gather it will be public. At that point, Mr. Mascarin, will you be getting back to council with the costs associated with that incident?
Mr. Chair, I cannot answer that question because it would lead to a conclusion.
So, Councillor Rayner, we have the Integrity Commissioner here who's stating that we can't answer the question. So, obviously, he's the most expert here on this matters. So,
well, I have a further question then, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Councillor Rayner, if you can steer a different question, please.
Through to Mr. Mascarin, there is still a complaint that is in the books that is being held at this time that cannot come to a completion until certain events happen later on, whenever. Is that not correct, sir?
Mr. Chair, that is correct. There are 2 complaints that are outstanding that are being held in abeyance.
Okay, that's basically what I was trying to get to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rayner. Any other further questions from members of the committee? Councillor Riley, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to our Integrity Commissioner. So I was just wondering if you could kind of go into a little bit more specifics related to the complaints between 2020-02 to 2020-04. $36,185 is, an absurd amount of money, and so I'm just kind of curious how that number comes to be. I don't know how this process works, and so I don't know. I imagine there's many hours and I guess other costs associated with that. I'm just trying to wrap my head around how one investigation could incur such a substantial amount of money. That's got to be about at least 0.5% tax increase on our residents. So I just like to know how that number came to be.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor. So, there is a complaint protocol that's set out in your at the end of your code of conduct, and it sets out the procedure that we are supposed to follow, and that complainants as well as members are to follow. What it seeks to do is enshrine the concept of procedural fairness to any complaint, so that it's fair to the complainant, to the member who is under investigation, as well as to any other persons that are involved. And what that requires is an adherence to ensuring that everyone's rights are safeguarded. So there's a process. Anytime a complaint is filed with us, we have to look at it. We have to make an initial classification of it and review it. In this case, there were 3 separate complaints, all of which related to roughly the same things, but they were all different in how they approached it. The various provisions in the code that they alleged were contravened. They weren't all exactly the same. And it related to essentially 3 different matters that the complainants all alleged that Mayor Bylsma had contravened the code of conduct. From that, the respondent member is offered an opportunity to provide submissions. In this case, Mayor Bylsma retained a legal counsel who decided that he wanted to challenge a number of matters in the complaint, including the charter issues, which we were put to the task of responding to. You will recall, Councillor, that at the council meeting where we reported on this, legal counsel for the mayor was present at the meeting and made significant submissions and actually participated in the round discussion on the matter and continued to ask questions throughout. That's how the matter proceeded, and quite honestly, that's why it took us probably a little bit longer than is typical to prepare a report. Once the draft report was prepared, we provided a final draft of it to the mayor, who again provided it to its legal counsel, who again reiterated a number of objections, submissions, and representations, all of which had to be reviewed and answered before we could provide a final report and make our presentation to council. So essentially, $36,000, I do admit, is a significant amount of money. And it was really because there were 3 separate complaints, all nuanced, all alleging different things, and legal counsel challenging pretty much every step of the way.
So thank you for that explanation. And so through you, Mr. Chair, am I to understand that because of the continuation in challenging what you were bringing forward, that I guess multiplied the cost of it? Like, are we talking about a few $1,000s? Are we talking about 25% more? Like, what? I'm just trying to get an understanding of what that pushback actually contributed to in this 36 number, because I'm just trying to. We see another one that's coming up in the works here, and it's sitting around $9,000. And I have another question about that in a second to what you can answer on that, if anything. But I'm just trying to get an understanding. Are we going to possibly depending on who that's related to, are we going to be, in a situation where we're looking at another $36,000? Or typically speaking, would you expect a traditional integrity complaint or report come underneath that, maybe around $20,000? I'm just trying to figure out how far over we went just because of kind of whatever resistance or acceptance of the situation.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Again, I don't want to duck the question, and I don't want to be unfair to the mayor on this. It increased the cost substantially, but if you were to say to me, did it increase it fourfold, double? I would say somewhere in between that. Certainly the involvement of legal counsel challenging a number of the steps and charter challenges, the right to guarantee to freedom of speech and so on, certainly led to significant increased costs. And I must say that we do find that quite often when legal counsel is engaged by a member of council, which they're entitled to do. That's my sense, but I don't have it mathematically in front of me, and I don't mean to be unfair. I'm taking a guess that it would probably have increased it at least double what we would probably have thought it would have been. That's my guess. And as to your second question, Councillor, I think you said to me, what would we have expected? Well, it's really hard to say. We have had a significant number of complaints that have gone over that amount, quite honestly, which I think surprises many people. But we've also had a number of complaints that were potentially more complex that came in significantly less than that amount. So it really depends on the complaint and the force of the response that comes back, the engagement of legal counsel, and whether we're put to additional inquiries, additional steps, delays, extensions of time, and things like that.
Okay, thank you. One more question, Mr. Chair. Through you back to Mr. Mascarin there. So I know you can't say much to complaints 2021-01 to 2021-02, but I am just trying to understand a situation or examples of situations where it would be deemed appropriate to suspend an investigation. I don't know if you explained that or if I missed that in the beginning, so I'm just trying to understand why, if that could be explained publicly so residents can understand what criteria need to be met to suspend an investigation.
Yeah, in this case, I'll be forthright. The investigation, the two investigations have been suspended because it's a statutory requirement under Section 223.8 of the Municipal Act. We have no choice in that. As integrity commissioners, we're mandated to suspend an investigation if the matter relates to something under the criminal code or the breach of another statute where there is a police investigation. So therefore, we cannot continue. We can hold it in abeyance. And in fact, we are required to hold it in abeyance, but we have to wait until the matter has been finally concluded. And so it has happened. We have suspended investigations in other matters, and we have concluded them after the police or other investigation has taken place.
If I could just ask a follow-up with that. So through you, Mr. Chair, is there a statutory limit to how long it can be held in abeyance there? Like, is there a timeline when this, kind of misses a certain point that I don't know whether it becomes irrelevant or it goes beyond someone's term in office? Like, is there an expiration?
Yes, there is. And in fact, a suspended investigation, I believe, I have to. No, actually there isn't. There's, I'm sorry, I was getting confused with another section of the Act where it's during the election blackout period, and I was getting confused between the two. There is no limitation period. So let's say, for example, the complaint investigation and whatever is winding through the courts could take 2 years. Once that's concluded, the matter re-picks up again. There is no expiration or termination that automatically happens. This is unlike a complaint that occurs during the blackout period next year during the election. What happens there if the Integrity Commissioner hasn't concluded concluded an investigation, then the investigation is actually terminated. It may be picked up again, though, at the request of any person following the election, following 6 weeks within the election afterwards. So I apologize, I got confused between the two, but in this particular case, there is no limitation period. And in and of itself, the complaints do not expire or somehow cease to exist at law.
And is it safe, through you, Mr. Chair, to assume that no extra cost or incur while it's in abeyance?
No, I would say no. There have been some additional costs incurred in finding out what's been happening.
Okay. All right. No, thank you for that, and I appreciate the floor, Mr. Chair. Thank you,
Councilor
John.
Riley. Any other further questions from members of committee? I didn't have much. I just wanted to say thanks, Mr. Mascarin, for your presentation. You know, it is just you know, as a senior counselor here, you know, it is a significant cost that you know, comes on the taxpayers. You know, if the intentions obviously by the mayor weren't that it was going to be this outcome, but they are this outcome. You know, we are governed by the oath that we take, and you know, the way we take that oath once we're elected in is what we have to follow. There's also to note that there's a lot of staff time that was involved in this. You know, our CAO has put hours and hours into these Integrity Commissioner reports. It's not just the office of the Integrity Commissioner that's just taking care of this. It's also a lot of staff, the clerks, the girls at the desk. There's a lot of staff time that is also, which is not included in these costs. So you know, the taxpayers, you know, I feel for them. It is a cost to them, and you know, hopefully moving forward, we're heading into a new year, things will be a little bit lighter on the taxpayers of West Lincoln. So thank you, Mr. Mascarin, for that presentation. I appreciate it. Now I'm going, I guess, back to the floor here. I guess, Councillor Yonker, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess what we got to remind ourselves a little bit as well is that there was 2 other cases and they were dropped right away. And so what we got to remember is there is times that when we are in political office, and we do have to obviously be careful and respect everybody and be very. But at the same time, I think it's good to remind ourselves that sometimes complaints come in just because somebody disagrees with what somebody had said. And I think we need to take that into consideration as well, and be careful that we and be careful that we remember that and move forward as council as well.
Well, that's why there's an investigation, Councillor Yonker, and I guess the Integrity Commissioner is the sort of police. And once they hand the tickets out, they are the tickets. And you know, we all have to abide by what we've taken and laws that we've committed to oath. And once they find that it's in contravene to that, the ticket's issued. That's the way I look at this. So, Councillor Rayner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mr. Mascarin. The advice to council members and staff, was that specifically related to the training and education and the code of conduct, or is some of that also related to any complaints that have been investigated?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Rayner. That's a good question, and I'm not sure I have the precise answer on this. I believe that the advice to staff is often questions about the ethical framework, you know, if things are proceeding correctly, things that they often will make me aware of that they would like some counsel on. As you probably know, Councillor Rayner, and members of the committee know, any member of council can ask me or my office for specific advice dealing with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act or your responsibilities under the Code of Conduct or any other ethical policy or procedure of the town. So I believe the advice to council members and staff encompasses all of those things. It's sometimes the CAO, sometimes the clerk reaching out to me with very good questions about things that they are concerned about, and I like to think that I'm able to help them with that. Council members can certainly reach out, so can local board members to us for specific advice. That's one of the functions that you'll see just above. So that's what it relates to, Councillor Rayner.
Thank you, Mr. Mascarian. Mr. Chair, through to the CAO. With regards to the three investigations that were concluded and the two that are still in progress, has this, besides the advice from Mr. Mascarian, has this tied up a lot of staff time?
Through you, Chair Trombetta, to Councillor Rayner, I don't really have the information I haven't prepared staff information with respect to that. When we talk about the time involved with this, it means that we take our time to review the issue. Sometimes we have to call another municipality to find out a good idea, so we don't have to call our integrity commissioner. But then some of our time is reaching out and making sure we're doing it correctly. And I think I've explained this to you before, that I think a good leader knows when they don't know what they don't know, and they reach out for appropriate assistance. And this is a very specific piece of law that needs to be managed very carefully. And when our integrity commissioner reached out to staff to prepare this, it was a very good decision to have him do this, because I don't know that we would have prepared it with the same regard for the information. He's doing the work, his firm is doing the work, and they know how they're billing it. And they also know the legalities of what they can speak about openly and what they need to speak about privately. So that's as much as I can answer at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam CAO. Thank you, Councillor Rayner. So leaving that need be, Mr. Mascarin, thank you for your presentation. You're always welcome, and I always learn more every time you're coming here. So I'd like to thank you for tonight's presentation, and I'd like to say have a good Merry Christmas and a good holiday and a good New Year to you and your firm and to your family.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I do appreciate.
Sorry, and I'm hearing the horseshoe around me. That's from all of us around the horseshoe here. So I'm quite sure the rest of the members of committee. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to say I really do appreciate the support that I've received from both council, but especially from staff. I must say, both your CAO and clerk have been terrific to work with. Anytime that I need anything, they are able to assist me promptly and efficiently. And so I do want to acknowledge, and admittedly, we have asked them to put in some time on some of these because we do need information and insight. So I do want to acknowledge that. So thank you very much for those comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mascarin. Members of the committees, we had a recommendation actually in front of us. I had a mover by Councillor Riley, and seconded by Councillor Canan. I don't see any further comments or questions. All those in favor? And opposed? Is that carried or opposed, Councillor Yonker? Just sorry, you was late. You might be the internet. Oh, carried, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And that's carried. Thank you. Moving on to request anybody to request any items on the agenda. Seeing no one in attendees, but anybody at all? Seeing none. Okay, moving on to consent agenda items. Item A, 7721, recommendation, the Administration of Finance hereby approves the following consent agenda items. Item 1 be hereby received and the recommendations contained therein adopted, and item 2 and 3 are hereby received for information. Memo extension of the terms of the members of committees and boards, information report T29-2021 financial update as of November 30th, 2021, and information report WFLD 17-2021 monthly update November. I need a mover for that. Councillor Ganan, seconded by Councillor Bradrick. Anybody want to pull any items? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that carries. No communications, there's no staff reports. Moving on to other business. Item A78-21, Councillor William Riley requests Niagara Regional Police District 8 Staff Sergeant to attend a future meeting. The recommendation forward is that the staff be hereby directed to contact the Niagara Regional Police Service District 8 Detachment to invite the new staff sergeant to attend a future standing committee meeting or council meeting for a brief introduction and a question and answer period regarding policing matters within West Lincoln. I need a mover for that, so I think Councillor Riley would like to be the first mover on that. Seconder for that, Councillor Ganan. Any comments or questions on that? Councillor Riley?
I can start. Yeah, so the reason I brought this forward is I think it must have been committee, I think it was in November. I had brought this up, I think, through one of my chances to speak at the end of a meeting. And I realized it's not normally how we're supposed to do that kind of stuff, so I thought I'd bring a more formal approach to asking staff to actually reach out. I had a motion, I think it was early in 2019, where we brought the staff sergeant at the time, Sergeant Rom, as well as I think it was the police chief. Not by any means am I expecting the police chief this time, but if we could have the new staff sergeant come out like we did last time, have a chance to meet council and have a chance to hear some of the things we have to say, and even maybe hear some input from them, what they've noticed change over that last little while, I think is important. And so, yeah, I thought I would do this a little bit more procedurally, how we're supposed to do it, than just kind of asking informally. So that's why I have this here today, and I don't think it's a big ask by any means. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Anybody else? Councillor Rayner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Back when your mother was mayor, I requested that this was done on a quarterly basis, and it was very informative. It was done, and then when we had a new mayor, it was dropped. I've asked for this for a long time, but it was never something that was put back on the table, unfortunately. I'm glad to see it coming back. It is interesting what they present, and I'm sure the police are also appreciate any comments that we have with respect to each of the wards that we live in and the concerns that may be unique and different to the areas in which we live in this township that could be brought to their attention. That was the purpose behind me asking for the quarterly meetings, but the interest in policing in the past had kind of waned a bit. So I'm glad to see it's coming back again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rayner. Anybody else? Any comments or questions? Councillor Ganan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a very brief comment about the amount of inappropriate actions going on around town through social media. Every time you open up daily, there's somebody else has had something stolen or broken into, or people have been putting online all kinds of videos from their home security systems. I just think it probably is an appropriate time to meet with police again and just discuss some of the things that are going on in West Lincoln. So I think it's a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ganan. Anybody else? Any members of committee? I just had one. I'd like to, I know this recommendation says a standing committee, but I think in all fairness, I think it should come to a council meeting where Regional Councillor Albert Witteveen would be present in that meeting. I know myself have had many conversations in regards to policing. I know yourself, Councillor Riley, and other members of committee. So I think if we could take out the standing committee, if it's not too much of an ask, and just put a council meeting, would be more appropriate, I think.
So I have no problem with that change by any means. The only thing I'd mention is like we're trying to make it flexible to their schedule, and I don't know what their schedule is like if that will line up. So that's the reason why we kind of left that there.
Okay. Well, then, if vice versa, if their schedule doesn't line up, then maybe we could have Regional Councillor Witteveen come to a standing committee meeting and sit in if that's the will of council.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
And the mayor, if that's okay, if we can have that, and maybe the clerk can note that in this recommendation that we have Regional Councillor Witteveen sit in this as well.
I support that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Seeing none, I had a mover, Councillor Riley, seconded by Councillor Ganan. I don't think we need to change this motion. Maybe just a note for the clerks, if we can have Regional Councillor Witteveen sit in this as Madam CAO, if that's okay. Or I see there's two clerks, Jessica and Joanne, if that's okay. We could have just a note that when this does come forward, we just notify Regional Councillor Witteveen. So seeing that it was moved by Councillor Riley, seconded by Councillor Ganan, all those in favor of this motion? And that carries. Moving on to item A79-21, Councillor William Riley, resolution from the City of Niagara Falls regarding School Board Professional Development Day request on Monday, October 24th, 2022. The recommendation that the resolution adopted by the City of the resolution adopted by the City of Niagara Falls Council and the meeting of October 5th, 2021, as provided in the city's clerk letter dated October 8, 2021, requesting the various school boards in the Niagara region to schedule a professional development day on a municipal school board election day being held on Monday, October 24th, 2022, be received. And there's a couple dots there, so I will look for a mover for that. Councillor Riley, seconded. Councillor Yonker. Comments or questions? I'll turn to Mr. Riley first. Councillor Riley, because it's his motion that he brought forward, so a recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I would at the end of that and I'd put supported. And so the reason I brought this forward is because, as we understand, we get a tremendous amount of correspondence through many municipalities in our email, and this is one that came through. Actually, must have been maybe just a little under a month ago or so, or maybe even shortly after the last council meeting. Otherwise, I probably would have brought it sooner. And I thought it would I thought it was really important to support, because I think as we start looking closer to the election and what that's going to look like, and I know we're in the process as well as trying to make it voting more accessible, I wanted to ensure that we also kept that accessibility available with in-person voting. Maybe I'm a little old-fashioned when it comes to this, but I certainly prefer voting in person than having necessarily do it by mail or any other method. So I wanted to ensure that we are doing everything we can, and hopefully this resolution is successful with what Niagara Falls Council had endorsed and brought forward, and hopefully we can show some support for that very same thing by showing our support tonight. So it's really just I saw that through, and I thought it was an easy one to bring forward, because I think we can all agree that we support the in-person voting, and I think this is an opportunity to make that a possibility if the school boards will entertain it. Again, this is just an ask. This isn't something we can control, but hopefully they'll hear our voices.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Riley. Any other members? Mayor Bowsma, and then I had Councillor Rayner.
Yeah, so I'm going to oppose this, and my reasons are just basically quite simple. Every employer is required by law to allow an opportunity window of 3 hours to allow for elections. I fail to see how giving a professional development day for teachers will increase election attendance or any if that's the effect. I also want to weigh the concerns that I have for children learning. As much as I understand that it's important to vote, and I strongly encourage everybody to exercise that well fought for right, I also strongly support the education of our children, and it might seem like a small thing, but it's another day, that the kids aren't in school, and they've had many of them already. And I know for a fact that children are suffering due to the many, these COVID years. Many of them have suffered as a result of, learning at home. It just hasn't been the same continuity, I just want to push back. It's not that I don't think voting is not important, or that it's not, but there is time. Voting, as polls are open till quite late. There's plenty of time from the conclusion of school, which is largely around 3 or 4 o'clock, till the polls close, to get that important task done. And I don't think that the kids need to be forfeit a day of school. I am sure that if we ask them, they're going to agree that this should happen. But I think as adults, we have to weigh the responsibilities to make sure that they get their schooling done. There's very limited time there's not a lot of days that are flexible. Now, of course, having said that, if the board in their wisdom decides to shift a professional development day from another slot, that's their purview to go. But at this point, from our perspective, for this particular motion, I'd be voting against it to basically advocate for our kids being in school as much as possible, especially in these days. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I have Councillor Rayner, then Councillor Gannon, then Councillor Riley. Councillor Rayner.
Thank you. I certainly agree with the comments made by the mayor. The reasons are that basically, way back on the March break, they were switching the March break in order to facilitate working of time that would work out well, that everybody could be off for the March break. Well, the March break turned out to be all of April, all of May, and all of June. That was one hell of a March break. School was closed for the whole thing. And then all summer long, they were worried, and even the doctors were saying, and a lot of people and reports in the paper and everything, that this time away from all their friends, these kids are suffering emotionally, they're suffering mentally, they're not getting in sync. A lot of them don't do well looking at computers. I know I've got some grandchildren. Some are good in it, some are not. They want to get back with their friends. So we were all happy in September that they came back again, and the teachers understood the importance, and I'm sure they wanted to be with the kids again. And the next thing you know, they had PD days off. And they conveniently had them on Fridays. They're supposed to be professional development day. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday looks more better than a Monday or a Friday to take a long weekend. It doesn't come across well. But in this particular case, with the tremendous amount of input from professional people saying how the children suffered by not being in school and then taking PD days off as soon as they got back, indicated to me that maybe their heart quite isn't the way that it was coming across. So in this particular case, now we've got another PD day, and like the mayor said, is that in lieu of another one? I don't know, but it doesn't sound good, because anytime they are, this is different though. This would be on a Monday. But I'm also wondering if there's any necessity in this, or is this extremely premature? There has been a lot of rumors out there that if this existing government gets back in a majority, Niagara may not look the same. And if Niagara doesn't look the same, then this voting at the school may or may not happen, may be entirely different, and the structure of all the municipalities in the region of Niagara may be totally changed. So because there is this huge question mark coming up, which has never happened before in previous elections, we don't really know if something major happens in June and the majority comes in. We don't know exactly what the situation is going to be for the municipalities in Niagara come October. So I think this is very premature in the sense that we don't even know if it's going to be relevant, and the structure on voting it may be entirely different. So I'm confused with that part of it because of the uncertainty right now, and we won't know until what happens next June. So for those reasons, I support the mayor. At this point, I'd just rather not do it.
Thank you, Councillor Rayner. Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't care whether we have that day off or not, but I do want to correct a couple of things. As you know, I did teach school for 34 years, and I'm very familiar with March break and the changes to March break. And I had, to Councillor Rayner, children involved in that same situation. This is not at all the same situation as COVID coming in and the schools being closed. The request from Niagara Falls, if you read it carefully, was to take an arbitrary day that they can plunk in wherever they want throughout the year, not increase the number of days, but put it in an appropriate place. I would like to say that it would not be an additional day off as a PA day. It would just be a replaced day from some other point in the fall. The other thing that Councillor Rayner talked about, and the mayor kind of alluded to about as well, as when the selection of days, it was a great deal of push from parents that made PA days, Mondays and Fridays, in particularly Fridays, before holidays even, so that they would not have days stuck here and there in the week and have to deal with their children, but rather could plan ahead for a longer weekend or an extension of a holiday and so on. So because the mayor is entitled his opinion and he gave it, but I felt that that fact was incorrect. And because Councillor Rayner is entitled to his opinion and he gave it, but I also knew that some of those facts were incorrect, I did ask to speak on this. I don't want members of the public to think that we're looking to have a day off just for an election. That certainly would not be the case. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gannon. Councillor Riley.
Yes, thank you, and thank you, Councillor Gannon, because I wanted to make sure, in case that was very clear, and I don't think everyone here has actually read the whole report here. If they did, I think they'd understand it's not asking for an additional day. And more importantly, it's about making their facilities available to accommodate voters. So unless you want to be on the position of oppressing people from having the availability of voting, I don't see why you would oppose this. This is about being able to utilize their services. We know in West Lincoln, the last election, Ward 3 residents were able to use the gymnasium, the cafeteria at Smithville Public School. That will not be available if we don't endorse something like this. And it's not even saying this, that this endorsement is going to guarantee that's going to happen. Again, this is not looking for an extra day off for teachers or anything like that that's been alluded within the course of the conversation here. This is about supporting a recommendation to ensuring that residents are able to actually get out and vote. This is more for the community than it is for the staff or even the students. And they, like Councillor Gannan had mentioned, it'd be just reallocating a different day or scheduling. Each month has approximately one PA day to begin with, so it'd be picking. Maybe instead of that month, instead of them using a Friday, maybe they can reallocate one to the Monday of the election, and hopefully that could fit in nice and neat there. However, this was not a request for more time, and it's not even time off. For anybody who understands what a professional development day is teachers are in the school actually training. They're actually working. They don't get to stay home, unlike the children do by any means. So I think there's a little bit of education that's required of some members of the committee here to understand what's actually being asked here, and actually what's from some of the accusations or comments they're making, what they actually think is happening, because I think they're two very different things here. But again, supporting this, should the boards choose to listen and work with us, would only be better for all residents in Niagara, because it ensures that we have a space. We're not just talking about public schools or the main public school. We got we have the Christian Heritage High School that we've used in the past for other voting as well. So and so again, I just want to make sure we understand here. The request is not for a day off in any capacity. It's about having them hopefully picking one of their PA days to be this day, so that we can ensure all residents who wish to vote in person, who are not comfortable with voting by any other method, are able to do so, and able to do so safely. Where else are we going to do it? I guess we have our community center that we could possibly accommodate, but then we might have to boot something else out. I don't know, what the agenda, what the schedule looks like for that day. So this here, I thought, was a simple letter of support, and whether or not the school boards wish to take us up on that is great. I do want to mention one more comment, as Councillor Rayner mentioned, the uncertainty of what the fall looks like. I think that uncertainty is probably going to fall heavily on what municipalities look like in Niagara. I've heard the same rumors as well, but I don't think that's going to necessarily be an impact on any of the schools. And so again, ensure whatever that outcome is, we can't control that, but we can ensure that our residents have a safe place to vote, and that they have an opportunity to vote in person should they wish to vote in person. So I will be supporting this, and Mr. Chair, I will be asking for a recorded vote, because I think it's important that the residents of West Lincoln have a chance to vote in person.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Yonker?
Yeah, I don't think it's too much to ask, and I agree with the last. I think we're making it more out to be what it is, so I'll be able to support this. So yeah, just go ahead. We can vote.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Yonker. I have a few comments. Yeah, a PA day is maybe back. I don't know. Maybe I can ask Councillor Gannan, but I know PA days because my wife works full time for the school board she teaches. PA days are those days that the teachers have presentations presented to them. It's their WMIS training, their CPR training, so on and so forth on those days. It's not necessarily a day off anymore.
It never was.
I don't know back in the day.
It never was. It always has been. And when they say professional activities, that's exactly what it is to increase teaching skills and the training that's appropriate to them. The same as we have training, in various things here as well. So.
The other thing I wanted to note, I'm not opposed to this resolution. Just members of committee, the school boards are going to do what the school boards are going to want to do regardless how these are voted. The school boards make their own decisions. The council can bring forward thousands of these to the school board, and the school board works on its own system without any council involvement. At least that's the way I thought. So, again, some municipality could bring something up every day of the week. The school board will decide whether they want to look at it or, again, throw it in the trash. So, again, I'm not opposed to this. Again, it's going to go to the school board, and the school board will decide. And even if this didn't come forward, maybe the school board could implement this themselves. So, again, I think I'm kind of maybe agreeing with Councillor Yonker. It's just, it's not a big deal. Just kind of, we're making this more than what it is, and just, let's go move forward. So, listening to you here, Councillor Yonker, I guess I had a mover was Councillor Riley, seconded by I think Councillor Ganan, or did I have second Councillor Ganan? Any further comments or questions on this? Obviously not. So I think the clerk, Madam Clerk, Councillor Riley asked for a recorded vote. So if you can start the roll call.
Yes, I just want to clarify, it was seconded by Councillor Jonker.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Jonker, my mistake, sorry.
No problem.
I'm always looking left to right to me all the time, so.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry about that, Councillor Jonker.
Okay, I can take the recorded vote then, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Councillor Riley?
Support.
Councillor Bradrick?
Support.
Councillor Ganan?
Support.
Councillor Rayner?
And do not support.
Councillor Jonker? Sorry, I missed you.
No problem. Support.
Mayor Valsma?
Opposed.
Thank you. And Chair Trombetta?
Support.
So the vote is 5-2 carried.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on, any members of committee, verbal updates, members, boards, or any committees? Moving on, any members of council, any other business of informative nature? Nobody? I have a few. You guys were at a couple of things with me. There's no public works after this, so well, I'll just say it here. Usually the public works follows, but I have a few. Maybe you guys want to touch some on. I attended the tree lighting ceremony. I did see a couple of members of council there and the mayor as well there. We did the tree lighting ceremony, which was really good. It was a good turnout. The hot chocolate was warm, and I seen a lot of toques there that were worn, so the weather was sort of cooperating. So I wanted to note that. A couple other things I wanted to note. I am delighted to see that this year, and I guess goes out to Public Works, that the tree is lit in town, where the Season's Greetings sign is. That tree was not lit for a couple years, and it kind of looked awkward when you're driving around in town and that tree was not lit. And I made that a point of wondering why that was never lit, and there was a cost associated with it, and I know it was in the dark. And to see that tree lit, not to say, for some reason to me, that should be the tree lighting ceremony should be there. I don't know why. I would like to see it there one day, but that's for this committee and maybe future committees to work at.
You would have to block the highway, and we can't do
Well,
that.
for some reason, I find that's the staple tree of West Lincoln. It's kind of a little passionate towards me. So I like to see, I'm really happy to see it lit. So I'd like to thank the Public Works staff and Director DePaula and Bob Dennison that got that done, because it really looks good when you're driving in through town there across in through town. I also wanted to note that there was a news in the paper about News Now reducing the paper and putting the News Now in the mailbox for their dues. And I'd like to thank council, because I think that's something that we kind of started back. I remember having a conversation with the mayor about all the plastic bags and then we brought it to council and we had a great discussion and got in paper. So I think it's this council that sort of started something in regards to that, and I'm very pleased to see that other people are hearing us, and that things are starting to move. We're not completely done yet, because I still see some blue bags along the road, but we'd like to see those plastic bags get eliminated and hopefully cleaned up. But I see all the hands starting to fly up now, so I guess there is a lot of more members of council with other informative nature. So I know I brought some points up, so I'll go to Councillor Yonker first. I've been going to my left. Let's go to Councillor Yonker first.
Yeah, I think the reason why he changed to postal, delivering his News Now by postal service, was because the business that he was using wasn't offering that service anymore. So I like your idea that we might have had a little bit of a thing to push towards it, but it was just basically on Deliveries Unlimited, I think, closed down and was not offering that service, so he had to find something different. So, but yeah, it is still a good thing to move forward, right? It's in the mailbox now, but it wasn't because of us, even though we'd like to think so.
Okay, thanks for pointing that out, Councillor Yonker.
Yeah, sorry.
No problem. Councillor Riley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to say my comments before, but I guess it kind of makes sense to talk about them during your meeting because they do relate to administration-wise. But yeah, it's just to kind of add to your comment there, I had actually reached out to the editor of News Now and actually thanked him for going in that direction there. And I also saw online he got a tremendous amount of positive support for going that way. And his company's growing and doing exceptionally well. So I think that's, I can imagine there must be some little bit of cost savings maybe if I don't think that was the driving force behind it, but I think he definitely recognized whether he had to change suppliers or delivery companies or not, that was going to be a more efficient way. And as I want to mention a few things, you talked about the tree lighting, which I know you were there, I was there, Councillor Gannan, Councillor Braderick, the mayor was there, and so I thought it was really well put on by Kiwanis and our partner with Kiwanis there, and even the Christian Heritage High School and their choir, and I think we even had a representative from the Knights of Columbus as well, and so that night was, I thought, really nice to kind of, I think. If I can remember correctly, as my wife and I were going back to the parking lot, I remember she was saying to me about how it's starting to feel a little bit more like the old days. Like that was like a really, it was like kind of like a little bit emotional opportunity to be able to be back out in public and see people again. So I thought that was, I wanted to thank everybody as well as the Ganans as well for helping with the hot chocolate there and like Mr. Councillor Trombetta mentioned, keeping our tummies warm there with the hot chocolate. I also wanted to give a shout out for the Christmas market. That was trying to explain. I put a little video on social media there, but I thought that was pretty well received. I thought that was an excellent opportunity for the community as well to get a chance to support local as well as engage with all the other things going on. We had some vendors outside, we had some vendors inside, and again it was just another slice of normalness coming back to our community. And so I thought that was. Again, I think as we take these strides towards our new normalcy, these are great things that are coming back, and all the hard work that goes into it sometimes gets taken for granted. But if our CAO could pass along the thanks and the appreciation, I know it was really well received in the community as well. I think one of the things I heard more commonly is that people were hoping if we do this again, if we can maybe have it extended a little bit longer. A lot of people couldn't make it before the 1 p.m. and I don't know what the restrictions were, and there might have been something that was we couldn't get around. But I know a lot of people were hoping that maybe if you even start a little later, maybe it can end a little later. Whether it's a 10 to 3 or something like that. But I know that other than that, I've heard nothing but positive reviews. And I also wanted to give a mention that tomorrow, I think the mayor's doing a flag raising, and regarding actually it's the campaign itself is through Jillian's Place. Actually wearing my tie that I got at the one event that I was able to go on behalf of the mayor called Wrapped in Courage. So we have that flag raising tomorrow, and I think it's a very important message that we need to all take a stand for and support, because there's many people who live in our own community that you don't even know. It could be your neighbors who are dealing with domestic violence, and so this is a very important thing that we need to bring to an end in one way or another. And but the simplicity of raising a flag might not seem like much to some people, but again, just it helps with the conversation, and it helps with the self-awareness of what's actually happening. And so I think that's an important thing to do. I unfortunately will not be in attendance at the flag raising, but I know the mayor will maybe speak to that, and I'm sure staff will have some kind of social media post that I could share afterwards. And then other than that, I think that's it. If I forgot anything, I'll mention it later. So thank you for your time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Madam CAO?
Yes, thank you. Just through you, Chair Trombetta, to Councillor Riley. That was a pilot, the winter market, and we did have really great feedback, and I think we will look at doing it next year. But what I wanted to tell you is that we intend that our market coordinator is going to be making a presentation at council next week, and she'll be looking for some feedback there.
Excellent.
And I'm not too sure who's going to be talking about the parade, the reverse parade this coming Saturday. That's a drive-through parade that's going to feature beautifully lit displays and floats, and with music provided and local choirs, and Santa himself will be there, or herself. And so that's something people have to sign up for. So there's a lot of information on our website. It's this coming Saturday from 5 to 8:30 p.m.
So I think I just wanted to mention something because CO brought that up. Yeah, so we have the drive-through parade. You can still get tickets online. The tickets are free. It just allows the everyone to kind of spread it out, so we're going to try and reduce the amount of backlog on the committee. Their hope was to reduce any kind of major congestion. So if you can go online, I think you can go through their social media or the website, and it's just a more of a formality. And I'm sure if you forget your ticket's not the end of the world, they'll still let you in, but it's just to help kind of mitigate some of that. And I know this, the committee is working exceptionally hard and stressful and many sleepless nights, and I think there'll be a few more leading right up to it and all the last minute changes as you can expect with organizing any kind of event. But I suspect it'll be nothing but incredible, and I really hope all members of the committee here are able to come out or participate in one way or another. And so hopefully we can see everybody there and have as many people as possible go through it and enjoy it. So,
Thank you. Councillor Gannett?
Well, I will join in too. Since everybody has mentioned all of the things that I had written on my list, I just want to say that in the 50 years that I have lived here, the town lights are the nicest they ever have been. The lights on the building, on the administration building, and the trees are absolutely amazing. The trees downtown, as Councillor Trombetta alluded to, just really brighten all of that. And the snowflakes, even though I thought they were not so great and gloomy last year in the blue of COVID, sort of complement the rest of it too. So I just think that the staff who've worked on that and the staff who gave guidance on that have done an amazing job. So the rest of what everybody else said is also great. But just one quick thing to you, Madam CAO, and that is that if all goes well, and then the chamber is back looking at their holiday show. So a holiday show combination with a market might turn out to be another good example of us not working in silos, but working cooperatively. So I just make that mental note to you now so that I don't forget to pass that on. It was really the working together that made the tree lighting a success. The partnerships, when we work with other organizations and groups, it really just benefits us all. And so I think the tree lighting was an excellent example of that. And maybe next year's holiday celebration, market-wise, will turn out to be the same. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Gannett. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on one more thing before I leave, just to mention the Christmas market. And the only reason why I will be mentioning this is because my daughter has a table there, and she's 12 years old. And to let everybody know, or people in the community know, that my daughter's attended markets in Mississauga, Ancaster, and Niagara Falls, and the most profitable market she's always is in West Lincoln. So it goes out to all vendors that, there is a lot of foot traffic, and it is a very, very busy market. And that goes to maybe, the committee that's putting together, getting the advertisement out there. The market has been a hit many times. So, hope to see it more in the future. Again, it was well organized. The gymnasium was packed with vendors, and at the end, you've seen everybody kind of almost ran out of all their things. So it is good, and hope to see it more and more in the future. So that's all I had. Any other members of committee? No, not seeing none. Okay, there are no confidential matters, so I will adjourn this meeting at 7:52. Thank you. We'll head into planning in 1 second when we switch seats here. Thank you.
All right, welcome back to the Planning, Building, Environmental Committee meeting. So it's now going to resume at 7:50. We'll say 7:53 p.m. or whatever. I don't know what time we adjourned the other one, but hopefully the clocks are right. We have 2 clocks in the room, and they have 2 different times. So I'm going to move forward to see if there's any members of the committee that want to change any items on the agenda, the planning agenda, that is. Not seeing any. We don't have any appointments tonight. If I could look in the gallery to see if there's anybody here who wishes to address any items on the agenda from the community. Or just take a look here. Nobody. Perfect. We'll go forward to consent agenda items. And there's a few. So all items listed are considered to be routine and non-controversial and can be approved by one resolution. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member requests it, in which case the item will be removed from the consent resolution and considered immediately following the adoption of the remaining consent agenda items. And the recommendation is that Planning, Building, Environmental Committee meeting hereby approves the following consent agenda items. Items 1, 2, 3, and 4B and are hereby received for information, and that item 5B and is hereby received and that the recommendations contained therein be adopted with the following exceptions, and there isn't, and so I will read what our items are. And we have a multi-municipal wind turbine working group minutes dated September 9th, 2021. 2, we have a technical report, PD-130-2021, zoning bylaw amendment, Paul and Laureen Cronkright. I think it's with an R. I think I saw their name before without the R, so I hope I'm saying their last name correctly, at 2458 Smithville Road. 3, information report, PD-132-2021, East Smithville Secondary Plan Update. 4, information report, PD-127-2021, Bill 13, Supporting Businesses and Peoples Act 2021, EBR posting. And 5, recommendation report, PD-131-2021, which is 2846475 Ontario Inc., previously Capcro, tubular product amending site plan authorizing bylaw. So if I can get a mover, Councillor Ganan, my seconder is Mayor Bylsma. Any items we want to pull? Not seeing any. Oh, Councillor Yonker. Okay. Councillor Yonker, can you hear me? I see your hand up.
Yeah, can I just pull one there? Yeah, I can hear you. Can we just pull one?
Absolutely. So one's going to be pulled, so we'll be voting on items 2, 3, and 4 for information, and we'll talk about one afterwards. I will note for the record that we seem to have lost Councillor Rayner. Don't know if he's having technical difficulties or not, but I notice he's not part of the meeting anymore, so I just thought I'd let that know for the record. So at this point, I'm going to have, if there's no other comments, withdrawals, or questions, I'll call the vote on 2, 3, 4, and 5. All those in favor? All right, that carries. And so I have a mover, Councillor Yonker for one. Can I get a seconder? I got Councillor Braderick. And Councillor Yonker, the floor is yours for item number 1.
Yeah, just I thought I'd pull this for a second. I did not make the meeting there, but it was. I think it's important to point out to the public, as well as in our residents as well, that there has been a few malfunctions with the windmills lately, and it's just good to note to the public that there's a committee, a working group that's keeping an eye on these things and working together to address them. The one was just trying to pull it up again, Gray West, one of the Skyway 8 update. It's I think it's in Gray County. Just give me 1 second here. That they had some extra fins to this, and it functioned and fell apart and came tumbling down. Some of the blades did, and then all the lake, and there was a tower that came down. So there's some concerns there that we got to keep an eye on, and it's just good that the public realize that this is ongoing. There's always stuff happening with this working group, so just thought I'd point that out.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions? Mayor Bills, did I see your hand go up? Sorry. Okay, sorry. I just saw that your screen glitched there. All right, so not hearing or seeing anything else, I'm going to call the question for item number 1, which is to be received for information. All those in favor? Okay, and that carries. So we're going to move along to communications. There are no communications, so now we're on to staff reports. Item P11721, Planner 2, Garrett Borma, and Director of Planning and Building, Brian Trevel, and their recommendation report is PD-121-2021, 1989 Abington Road Allowance. And the recommendation is that the report, PD-121-2021, recommendation report 1989 Abington Road Allowance, dated December 6, 2021, be received, and that staff be authorized to prepare a memorandum of the understanding undertaken in or agreement to be signed by the owner, and that staff be authorized to proceed with completing survey work to create a part of on a reference plan for the subject lands. And that staff be authorized to obtain an appraisal if an appraisal is required. And finally, that staff report back to committee or council, or in council, once the survey and appraisal is completed. So if I can get a mover for that, Councillor Trombetta, and I have Councillor Ganan as a seconder. Any questions or comments? I have Councillor Yonker.
Yes, through you to the planner. Sorry, who was it again? Garrett Bourma?
Yeah, Garrett.
I guess the question I just had was on the tropical on the map that we received. Is it just dealing with the ditch in the corner of the property then that's the concern, or is there something else that I'm missing? I'm guessing it's that corner. I just kind of wanted to know where the concern was.
Yes, through the chair, it is just about a 50 square meter. It's a portion of the road and a portion of the town ditch, and that's what we're looking at. That was brought to our attention by the landowner.
Is that everything you have, Councillor Yonker? Okay, perfect. Any other members of committee? Not seeing or hearing any, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. So we'll move on to item, I'm getting ahead of myself here, sorry. So we're on to item P11821, Planner 2, Garrett Bourma, and Director of Planning, Brian Treble. And it's an information report, which is PD 128, 2021, crossing on the 20 South Condominium update. And this recommendation report, PD 128, 2021, regarding the information report, crossing on the 20 South update, dated December 6, 2021, be received for information purposes. So if I can get a mover. Councillor Trombetta, go with Councillor Braderick as a seconder. Maybe I'll start with the director. Would you like to maybe start with this? I know it's for information purposes only, if you want to give a brief explanation.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just we wanted to make sure that the committee was aware that there is a plan of condo. It's on Town Line Road at the intersection with Shuri Road. Where there is a delay right now in granting plan of condo final approval, and that means that the owners are not able to actually close on the ownership of the units that they have been living in some cases for, I think, upwards of 2 years now. The good news is that Mr. Bourma has received word from the planner for the developer that they think they have a solution to fix the issue that's holding back final approval, and they have asked for a meeting with staff, which has now been set up, I believe, for sometime next week. Garrett, I'm not sure if there's more you want to add or not, but for now, Mr. Chair, we wanted to make sure the committee was aware that there is a delay. People are getting a little bit agitated about not being able to close on their properties. And apparently word is out that it's the township's fault, and I wanted the record to be set straight to indicate that the developer has not satisfied conditions, and that's on him, not us.
Thank you, and thank you for explaining that. I think, one of our, struggles is always trying to get the clear information out there. It's very easy for misinformation to circulate, so I think this is an important topic brought forward. I will also know I see Councillor Rayner has returned, so welcome back, Councillor. And at this point, I'll see if there's any other members of committee that have any specific questions or comments. Not seeing or hearing any, so I'll call the question. All those in favor of receiving this for information? And that carries. Any opposed? Not seeing or hearing any, so that carries. Move to item P11921, Planner 2, Garrett Bourma, and Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble, and it's a recommendation report as well, which is item PD 129, 2021, 167 St. Catherine Street, condominium street naming. And the report is that the recommendation report 167 St. Catherine Street, condominium street naming, dated December 6, 2021, be received, and that upon registration of the condominium, a bylaw be passed naming the private street Angle Lane. So if I can get a mover, I got Councillor Ganan. Again, Councillor I'll go with Mayor Billisma as a seconder. And any questions or comments? Looks pretty straightforward. Not seeing or hearing any, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. So now we're going to go to other business. Any members of committee have any other informative natures? I have Mayor Bylsma.
So thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and everyone was stealing the show in the last meeting. So I fully support, you know, all the comments that were made about the Christmas market, about the tree lighting, and I was going to bring forward the parade. So that was all been done. One item that I did want to bring up that wasn't done, and on the 23rd of November, there was a flag raising for positive living. And I just wanted to inform everyone that there was a red, I don't know if you can kind of see this. Hang on, let me just go like this for a second. I know there's, I'll just change this for a second. Just so there we go. Now you can kind of see. There's a red scarf campaign, and you can. It's basically you know, kind of a public service conversation starter. And so on behalf of the township, I received a hand knit scarf, and just wanted to make you aware of that, and that was for positive living for the flag that was raised on November the 23rd. So yes, and then just to echo what Councillor Riley said about Jillian's Place and the flag raising that we're doing there tomorrow. So thank you very much. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any other members of committee? Not seeing or hearing any, so we're going to move forward to new items of business. Any members of committee have new items of business? Now, again, not seeing or hearing anything, so we go to confidential matters. So that under the recommendation that the next portion of this meeting be closed to the public to consider the following pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act, and there's a few here I have to read. 13.1, the Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble, and it's a legal solicitor client privilege confidential report PD-133-2021 request for waiving of the development charge for Cairn Christian School, and the applicable closed session exemptions are litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, advice that is subject to solicitor client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. And then our 13.2 is from our Director of Planning, Brian Treble, and that is also a legal solicitor client privilege property sale matter, confidential report PD-134-2021, sale of lands in downtown Smithville, Township of West Lincoln. And the closed session exemptions are the security of the property of the municipality, advice that is subject to solicitor client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal employees. And then 13.3 is Planner 2, Garrett Borma, and the Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble, and it's legal as well, which is legal solicitor client privilege, confidential report, PD-135-2021, appeal of housekeeping item number 5, zoning bylaw amendment, and the closed exemptions or session exemptions are litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, the security of the property of the municipality or local board, advice that is subject to solicitor client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. And then we have 13.4, Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble, legal solicitor, client privilege, which is legal and bylaw enforcement. It's a verbal update. And the applicable closed session exemptions are litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, advice that is subject to the solicitor client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, the security of that property, of the municipality or local board, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal employees. We're almost there. And 13.5, Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble, and it's a legal solicitor's client privilege, Helen Kazan, Ontario Land Tribunal, verbal update, and this is applicable closed session exemptions are litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, the security of that property of the municipality or local board, advice that is subject to solicitor client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. And then finally, We have one last one under 13.6, Director of Planning and Building Brian Treble, and it's legal solicitor client privilege, property sale matters, sales of land in former Gainsborough Township. It's a verbal update. Applicable closed session exemptions are the security of the property of the municipality, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal employees, advice that is subject to solicitor client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. So if I can get a mover, I got Councillor Ganan and a seconder, Councillor Trombetta, that we, I guess, go into close. So I'm assuming there's no comments or questions, so I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor that we go into close to discuss those matters? Perfect. Any opposed? One opposed. Okay. Councillor Rayner for the record's opposed. And that carries. So now we're officially in close. All right, so I'm going to get a mover and seconder to come back into open. I got Councillor Trombetta and Councillor Ganan. So all those in favor? All right, so we're officially back in open at 9:44 p.m. And so we have a couple of recommendations here to get through. So the first item's item P12121, and that was the Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble. Confidential recommendation report, PD 133, 2021, request for waiving the development charge for Karen Christian School expansion. That the report, PD 133, 2021, regarding the recommendation report, request for waiving the developmental charges for Karen Christian School be received, and that staff be authorized to proceed as directed in closed session with respect to the collection of the township portion of the development charge at the time of the building permit. If I can get a mover. Councillor Braderick, seconder, Mayor Bilsma. If there's no questions or comments, I'll call the question, the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. All right, so we're going to move forward to 13.2. Item P12221, Director of Planning and Building Brian Treble, and as a confidential item, PD 134, 2021, the sale of lands downtown Smithville, Township of West Lincoln, and the recommendation is that report PD 13421 regarding confidential recommendation report, sales of lands in downtown Smithville, Township of West Lincoln, dated December 6, 2021, be received, and that staff be authorized to receive as directed in closed session. So I need a mover on that one, Councillor Ganan, and I have a secondary, Councillor Yonker. All those in favor, assuming there's no conversation. Okay, any opposed?
Opposed.
All right, and one opposed, that carries. And we're moving forward to 13.3, Planner 2, Garrett Borma, and Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble, and the confidential recommendation report, PD 135, 2021. My screen went there. Appeal of housekeeping number 5, zoning bylaw amendment. And the recommendation is that report PD 135, 2021 regarding recommendation report appeal of housekeeping number 5, zoning bylaw amendment dated December 6, 2021 be received. And that staff be authorized to proceed as directed in closed session. So I'll need a mover for that one. Got Councillor Braderick and Councillor Ganan. And any questions, comments? All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. The other 3 were just verbal updates. And so I'll go to the adjournment now. So I'm going to adjourn this meeting at the hour of 9:47 p.m.